My name is Nimpa Patel, and I am the Director of Membership and Database Marketing at the AGO.
I'm Jennifer Lang. I'm the VP of Customer Experience, Consumer Innovation and Trends, and Consumer Insights at TD Bank. Almost all products and services are commodities. They're very similar. And if you can differentiate even a digital experience today, your competitors can match that in a matter of months, if not days. And so customer experience is the only area where you can truly stand out and be different and actually kind of create that brand promise in the market. And so for me, it's pivotal.
Oh, customer experience is at the core of everything. And I think as a marketer, it's interesting because I'm passionate about marketing because I myself am a customer. Really, it's about having and promoting a seamless customer experience. And so I think customer experience is very important.
Really, customer and customer experience is deeply embedded in TD's vision of being the better bank. And it actually comes to life through our purpose around enriching the lives of customers, communities, and colleagues. And if we really think about that, our strategy is actually brought to life with something called the TD framework, which actually helps shape our culture and guide our behaviors. And specifically, customer is one of the 5 pillars within the TD framework. And so it's articulated as think like a customer and provide legendary experiences and trusted advice. Beyond being embedded into our strategy and our framework, actually CX is a big part of how we operate every day. Our leaders across the entire organization have access to real-time CX insights via our CX Voices platform. And so they can get a live view of how we're doing, what our customers are saying, and what we need to do to really deliver those legendary experiences. CX is actually a metric on all of our scorecards throughout the organization. And so we have an eye towards CX performance and progress on a continuous basis.
So one of the key things especially with my role as the Director of Membership and Database Marketing is a high goal for us is to have this very integrated customer strategy. So this is where we want to learn more about the customer journey, and really we are a destination. So we welcome over 800,000 customers and visitors in a year. So with that, the customer experience is extremely important. So the communication and brand team, or what we call CAB, is made up of 5 key pillars. We wanted to make sure that these five key pillars were all part of the same team. So that way we are aligned and absolutely audience centric. So that way our marketing strategies are integrated and executed on brand and on mission.
Actually, at TD, marketing plays a crucial role as the customer advocate. We like to call ourselves the unapologetic voice of the customer back to the organization. And so we take that role quite seriously. The enterprise CX team at TD actually sits within marketing. And so in that role, we have ownership and oversight over all of CX measurement strategy and execution. And we are also accountable to surface enterprise and business specific CX opportunities and improvements. And so if you think about it, our role is really as an independent enterprise-wide view. So we give the organization a view of our current CX and brand performance, but we also help the organization understand where do we really need to focus our efforts? How do we make continuous improvement? And really being that single source of the truth and not being afraid to instigate a bit, to bring that truth forward so that we're really deliberate and focused on how to continuously improve CX.
Part of our mission is, again, it's about being accessible, being welcoming. And so we want to make sure that the visitor experience and that customer experience is front and center. And it drives a lot of our decision making and shapes a lot of our strategy. The communications and brand team within our organizing strategy is responsible to always be audience centric with everything we do. There's lots of ways that a customer can enter or begin that journey. They can start at the retail shop, they can start at food and beverage, but ultimately it's about connecting those experiences together. And it's really building upon learning more about the customer, learning more about what their interests are, and we could tailor direct marketing communications towards what they're interested in.
We understand that you cannot be a CX-led organization if you do not have a CX culture across every single function, every single group across an organization. You've got to manage those touch points very thoughtfully today. right? I think in today's cluttered media environment, it's a privilege when customers opt in for communications from any organization. And so, how do you be really deliberate and really thoughtful with how you optimize those touch points? And that is another role that marketing plays across this entire organization that, in my mind, is directly linked to customer experience.
And also, we're responding. We know that customer behavior and customer expectations have shifted. And so it's about how do we make it easy and convenient. So it's that contactless approach. So ultimately, it's about engagement, it's about loyalty, it's about driving new audiences, and being a part of the city and being almost I don't want to call ourselves a community center, but it's really a hub, a cultural hub, so that the city of Toronto can enjoy and feel welcomed.
Customer experience as a measure, and we have a core measure that's unique to TD, is actually embedded in our decision-making frameworks, in our day-to-day operations, in how we short and long-term plan, and our performance management. So we look at what's the brilliant basics? What are those table stakes that we've just got to deliver, and we've got to deliver with excellence, because that is what customers expect from us. But then also, how do we also deliver those differentiated experiences where we're going to double down and we think we can kind of create a strategic differentiator? We actually measure CX at a number of different levels. At the top, we measure brand health and brand equity. And I mention that because we strongly believe that our brand is the promise that we're making to consumers and customers about the experiences we're going to deliver. And then CX is actually the delivery against that promise. And so at the top, we do quite a bit of robust measurement on brand health and brand equity, just understanding how we're resonating in the market. And then in terms of CX specific measurement, we have a number of different levels of measurement. So we have a very robust transactional CX measurement program where we actually solicit feedback from customers who have recently had an interaction with us. Beyond that, we also have broader relationship surveys with some key businesses, so wealth or commercial and business banking. So those are more relationship-based surveys. They're not about a specific moment, it's about a broader relationship that they have with us. And then finally, we have something called journey measurement. And so that is where we measure the experience at different moments across a customer's specific journey. And so just trying to understand, how we're doing and what we need to improve. But I would say beyond direct customer feedback, the other kind of measurement we're doing is we're actually integrating multiple sources of customer feedback. And so this could be solicited or unsolicited feedback. And we look at leading indicators of CX and lagging indicators of CX. And so I'll give you a few examples. We're ingesting social media comments and sentiment framed around customer experience. And so that, as we know, especially through COVID, definitely a leading indicator. What is happening in the moment live right now with our customers? And so we ingest social media. And then we look at things like complaints data. What are customers complaining about? And that's a bit of a lagging indicator because that takes some time to get through the complaints process. And then finally, what I like to call retrospective CX is the competitive benchmarking. And so we'll buy syndicated studies to understand how we're doing, but oftentimes those look back 3 to 6 months. And so I like to call them retrospective because we're always looking quite back in time. But each of these sources of CX actually provide a very valuable insights for us to kind of calibrate across, but also understand how we're doing, right? If we can start to solve for the things we're seeing in the real time, we hope that will then translate into kind of the retrospective feedback that we look to. And so to me, it's that whole spectrum that's critically important. And that is all part of our measurement strategy and how we look at CX at TD.
Key is exit surveys. The goal of this survey is just to understand and get a feel for whether they want to recommend. So NPS is a big thing for us as well. We want to maintain high NPS scores, and really, it's about, I think about, for myself, especially within the membership area, it's about renewal rates. It's about loyalty as well. So we know, and the easiest way that I can describe this is if we have great renewal rates and we have great repeat visits, that translates to loyalty. And if they're coming back and they're enjoying and they're renewing their membership or their annual pass, we're doing something right. So I think that in itself just is indicators for us to know that, and measurements for us to know that we are on the right path. And then also it's about audiences. So are we actually, we do measure our audience growth and where they're coming from a postal code perspective. So it's also about, are we driving new audiences from different areas that might not have come to the AGO? So these are the kind of things that we want to make sure that we're tracking.
It actually starts truly with strong leadership who truly believe that and understand how critical customer and customer experience is in driving business growth. For organizations who do not, have a CX function or CX kind of as core as part of their organizational model, I would just say start now, start small, and start to build that up. I think there's many ways that you can start it. If you look across the landscape, it may feel overwhelming because there's a lot happening in CX and there's a lot of organizations that are quite mature, but we're all still learning and we're all still growing. And so the best way to kind of get on that is just to get started. Reach out to your peers in your industry outside of category, learn from the organizations, that are in this space, and where to start. For me, it's CX, I think, as a practice. We call it customer experience, but it's just customer focus, right? Being really customer minded and, consumer insights, consumer trends, customer experience, all these functions have one thing in common. It's all about the consumer. It's all about the customer. And so all you've got to do is start with a focus of understanding the market and understanding your customers. And so that's where I think you need to start, and then continuously keep your eye on that, because customer needs change and they're changing more rapidly now than ever. So even more important to have, have that measure of how things are changing. So I would just say start there.
For organizations that don't currently have a CX function, I would highly encourage it. The visit experience is so important and vital, because it's really about being as close to the visitor and that customer as possible. So it's about being able to journey map and understand, at what point are they making decisions? At what point do they fall off? At what point within that journey can you actually influence and steer the way that you want, and learn from that journey. So and marketing, whether it's about mass or direct, and all of it ties together, because really the reason why the AGO is here, and go back to our the AGO's key values. It is art, audience, and learning, but audience is always at the core.